Hi everybody, this is Greg Tanner for The Mindful Eye and the Photo of the Week on the Daily Critique. I know we promised a landscape photograph for the Photo of the Week. Daniel, who's a member of The Mindful Eye, generously shared this photograph with me in an email, and he let me know that it wasn't sharp at all, and I just didn't pay attention to that because I was so overwhelmed with the visual of the JPEG of the image. It wasn't until I got the Photo of the Week submission that I realized sort of what had happened. So I want to show you the image, but we ended up, for technical reasons, choosing another image for this week, and this is the image that we're going to talk about now for a few minutes. This image was submitted by Frank, who's an advanced photographer from Germany. Frank says he took a trip to British Columbia, went to a ranch. He says he loves to ride, went out horseback riding, and on one of the days of his trip after finishing a horseback ride, had this beautiful afternoon light. It was a big part of what motivated him to create this beautiful portrait of one of the horses that they had been riding. Frank shot this with a Panasonic Lumix. It's a camera that shoots 16:9 aspect ratio, really neat point and shoot camera. And obviously Frank has shot vertical here at ISO 100 and f5.6, exposed the file for 1/160th of a second. And this is a really nice portrait focal length. So it's an effective focal length of around 80 millimeters. One of the things that I just love right away about this shot is sort of the idea of unconventional cropping. What I mean by that is, instead of showing the whole space shape of the horse's head, Frank is coming all the way in where we're cropped in on the head. And so as far as a negative space along the edge of the frame, we don't run into this issue of how do we manage a shape, let's say like the nose of the horse ending in the shot, and then that creates a real powerful negative space around that subject matter. It also means that there's other stuff back here. It may be not working so great from a contrast or color standpoint, so on and so forth. This is one way to simplify. In any kind of a portrait situation, you see a lot of these types of shots in cinema. You see very, very tight shots on faces where there's unconventional cropping and we're just all the way in on the mask of the face. One of the things that it does, obviously, is psychologically it can have a really big effect, because something like an eye that we're seeing here that has the ability to communicate a lot of emotion obviously gets a lot bigger, but it just simplifies our life from a composition standpoint, because we don't have to deal with a lot of complicated balance issues, space shape, negative, positive space shape at the edge of the frame. In this case, because what we're talking about is unconventionally cropping the face of a horse, and with the black and white treatment here and with some high local contrast treatment and post-processing, we're really starting to move towards something that on one level of reality does represent something literal, the face of a horse, but then on another level of reality it starts to represent something that is abstract. And there are different ways to look at this image. I mean, you could say that this is just a stunning study of just texture. I just love the combination of the local contrast treatment and the quality of light. Very, very classical in terms of the placement of the eye and putting that in a dynamic place on the image, close to an intersection of 2/3. The other thing that I'm really enjoying about this framing and just the way value and form has been framed here is that you get a repetition in some really beautiful ways of the real powerful shape of the eye. You know, you get a sense of that starting to happen in here, moving out in the image, that eye shape. It keeps happening. You see it here. You see that movement of line. You just see it happening over and over and over again in so many different ways in the image. And I think that that's very, very powerful. The other thing that I really enjoy in the top part of the image is just the way this is such a strong subject, but then it gets balanced by this part of the horse where we go to a value that's very, very bright. And again, the shape is playing off of the shape of the eye, but the value is very different. The fact that it's high contrast and the fact that it's white does a beautiful job in a dynamic way on a real powerful diagonal of rhyming the eye. And then you get this really beautiful bit coming in that can play off of the eyelashes and these details in the horse that we're seeing because Frank is in so close. The other thing that I really enjoy is this is such a graphic image, and it's so simple in a lot of ways. Even though there's so much texture and detail, it's still overall sort of simple and graphic. And one of the things that works really well here for me is the way the corners play off of each other and balance each other. You have this white space shape here that plays off of the dark triangle here. Those two things are real beautiful on the diagonal. And you have a very simple, similar feeling of texture and tone from corner to corner, top left to bottom right. This movement of line coming in very similar texture and subject matter. Just stunning, just an absolutely stunning close portrait of this horse, and we want to say a big thank you to Frank for submitting it. Now for the landscape photograph that I was so enthralled with. This image was submitted by Daniel, and Daniel saw this and stopped, took a snapshot, and said this is very, very close to the color in his raw capture. This is a JPEG version. He hasn't done anything with it, and I can believe that. You know, I was just in Savannah last night and actually saw something on River Street, full rainbow and cloud formations and things. I was looking at them and the sky looked solarized and everybody was looking. It was just unbelievable. I mean, one of the tough things about digital capture in Photoshop these days is when these kinds of things do happen now and we simply document them. People are so used in their mind to going to a place where something has been edited or altered or manipulated that some of these things in nature can be, you know, sort of hard to just accept for what they are. But you get a sense in the trees that this is a straight shot. You know, one of the things that Daniel mentioned in his submission was just how much he saw in this an archetype. You know, and I love the idea of archetypes. Daniel took one of our next step workshops. This is one of the reasons that he shared this image with me, because he saw the mandala, you know, like symbol of the full reflection that we're getting here in a real powerful sense of a circle, but also within the circle something that's complex. And the idea of mandala is not just circle, it's something that's a lot more multi-dimensional than that. It's sort of the cycles of life on many, many, many different levels of reality, and it's really sort of amazing how you're getting that here with the clouds making a circle and they're doing one thing, sort of this real fiery kind of thing that's happening, and then something that's cool and understated in here, and that's making a circle, then the rainbow within that, and then even the idea of the trees, and a very, very different feeling and very, very different subject matter. So it's just really cool that within this simple design of the repeating circle you have all these different levels of reality, and it is something that had a huge effect on me still, even seeing this where it's not sharp. And it's interesting, Daniel also shot this with a Panasonic point and shoot, and you know, so it's just kind of a synchronicity that we had this other shot from Frank that was also shot with a Panasonic point and shoot. Daniel says, is there anything that can be done to correct the lack of sharpness? And I don't know. I think this is soft to the point where it would be pretty hard to sharpen up. But I still wanted to share it, and you know, hopefully there'll be other people that will see in this some of the things that we were just talking about in terms of archetypes and things that go beyond you know, the surface of our lives. Big thank you to Daniel for sending me that image. It still has a huge impact on me. Huge thank you to Frank for sharing this stunning portrait of a horse. Huge thank you to all of you for being here. Hope to see you again real soon. Have a great weekend.